Tonight, you'll hear a story that no one else saw coming, a child who could see death before it happened, and a detective who alone understood her visions. Before we dive into the mystery, make sure to subscribe to The Silent Case and hit that like button. Rain-slicked streets reflected the glow of flickering streetlights. Shadows stretched across the alleyways, like long fingers reaching for secrets no one was meant to see. A girl sat alone on the steps of a closed playground, her small hands pressed tightly to her knees. Her eyes weren't on the wet pavement or the puddles, they were staring beyond the world itself. She knew things she shouldn't, things the city had forgotten to protect. She whispered a name. The syllables barely formed, yet they carried weight. A life unclaimed was already teetering on the edge. Detective Silas Dune arrived quietly as he always did, noticing the patterns no one else ever did. Ordinary lives moved around him in a blur, oblivious, unknowing. Only he saw the threads that tied the child's whispers to the shadows that hung in the streets. The girl drew in the air, tracing invisible lines across the rain-slicked asphalt. Dune watched, silent and cautious. He had learned not to speak too much, not to interrupt. The visions had a rhythm, a pulse. Death was always precise, always silent, and it always came unannounced. "Tomorrow," she said softly, barely audible, "he will be near the bridge." Dune didn't need more. He knew the city had secrets hiding in plain sight, corners that never received attention. The bridge was empty when he arrived, mist curling around the railing, concealing everything that lurked there. A coat, draped over the iron, fluttered in the wind. No one else would notice. No one else could see the shape of what was to come. Footsteps echoed lightly in the distance. Dune's eyes flicked to a shadow moving against the fog. A hand reached for a passerby. Dune moved before the world even realized the danger existed, grasping the wrist and pulling the potential victim back into safety. The shadow vanished like smoke, leaving only questions and the chill of uncertainty. Clues were everywhere, yet invisible. A discarded shoe under a lamppost, a handkerchief embroidered with initials that belonged to no one in the neighborhood. Dune collected them quietly, piecing together a puzzle that no one else would ever see. Each fragment brought him closer to understanding the silent choreography of death. At home, the girl sat at her desk, sketching in frantic lines, each stroke a warning, each mark a message. She did not understand the magnitude of what she foresaw, only the fear that accompanied the knowledge. Dune leaned over her shoulder, tracing the faint lines with his eyes. He could read what she could not, the story behind each vision, the path that would lead to the next life hanging in the balance. Evening turned to night. The streets filled with indifferent pedestrians, umbrellas bobbing like unaware ghosts. Laughter spilled from cafes, the mundane sound of lives untouched by the shadow creeping nearby. Dune walked silently, mapping the patterns she revealed, anticipating the next event before it could unfold. The following day, she froze in the middle of the playground, her gaze distant. "He's here," she whispered. The wind twisted around them, carrying a faint metallic scent, sharp and bitter. Dune's instincts told him to act. The city's rhythm seemed to slow as he traced the invisible threads to the spot the girl had warned him about. Inside an abandoned warehouse, evidence lay scattered, plans, tools, notes. But the perpetrator was nowhere to be found, as if the air itself had swallowed them whole. Only Dune and the girl knew the full story. Only they understood the danger that moved unseen, the life that had almost been lost. She leaned against him, exhausted, tiny shoulders shaking. "Will he come again?" she asked. Dune nodded slowly, his face calm, though the weight of the knowledge pressed on him. "We'll be ready," he said. The truth was darker than she realized. The visions would not stop. The city held endless secrets, and only a few would ever see the warnings before it was too late. Days and nights merged into a blur of rain, fog, and shadows. Every whisper, every discarded object, every fleeting movement became a clue. Dune traced them all, guided by the child's visions. The invisible killer, the life on the edge, the moment before the fall, all of it became visible to him, though to the rest of the world it remained hidden. The girl began to draw in more detail, obsessively mapping the city in pencil lines, arcs, and spirals. A street lamp here, a cracked window there, a figure standing too long at an intersection. To anyone else, these were meaningless sketches. To Dune, they were a roadmap of death and salvation intertwined. One night he followed her lead to a narrow alley behind a laundromat. The smell of wet detergent mixed with the metallic tang of something far darker. Shadows shifted along the walls, but the girl's gaze never wavered. "There," she said, pointing to a shadow that seemed too thick, too still, almost breathing with intent. Dune's hand brushed against a damp brick wall as he approached. Every instinct screamed danger, but his mind was sharp, calculating. A figure moved just beyond the dim light. The killer had been following a pattern, predictable only to someone who could see the invisible lines of fate. Suddenly, a scream. A man stumbled into the alley, oblivious to the trap. Dune lunged, tackling him behind a dumpster just as the figure reached out with something sharp glinting in the dim light. The world seemed to pause. The rain stopped hitting the pavement. The city held its breath. Seconds later, it was over. The man was safe. The shadow retreated into the darkness, leaving only a faint echo of its presence. Dune checked the surroundings, tracing the path the killer had taken, confirming what the girl had predicted. Another life saved. Another secret the world would never know. Back at the apartment, the girl's hands were trembling, her sketches scattered around her like fragments of a forgotten world. "Will he ever stop?" she asked. Dune looked at her with the weight of countless secrets in his eyes. "No," he said softly, "but we can make sure he doesn't win. Not while we're paying attention." The next days were a tense dance of visions, sightings, and silent observation. The girl would sketch, whisper, and draw lines in the air. Dune would follow, invisible, unnoticed, predicting the movements no one else could. Every time they were just in time, just enough to prevent tragedy. Then came the night when all threads converged. The girl's sketches pointed to the abandoned amusement park, its gates rusted, its rides creaking in the wind. Dune's pulse quickened. He had anticipated this for weeks. The killer, clever but predictable, had left patterns he could read. They moved through the shadows, the child clutching Dune's hand tightly. A carousel turned slowly in the distance, wind howling through the broken mirrors. And there he was, the perpetrator, poised, ready to strike, unaware that fate had chosen Dune and the girl as the arbiters of his plan. Dune stepped forward, calm, precise, every motion calculated. The killer lunged and Dune met him with force and resolve. The struggle was brief, brutal, and silent. By the time the authorities arrived, the killer was detained, the city oblivious, the girl trembling but unharmed. The girl looked up at him, her eyes wide with unspoken understanding. Dune smiled faintly. Another life saved, another secret the world would never know. Another night when shadows had been defeated by foresight and courage. The night fell silent. Rain faded. Only the faintest echo of the city remained, and in the quiet, Dune knew that for every secret solved, countless others remained, waiting in the shadows. But tonight, at least, he had made a difference. If you enjoyed this story, let us know your favorite part in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to The Silent Case so you never miss a secret the world doesn't know.